Hi, everybody. It's Jeff Allen. I'm warning everybody got a cough, so I'm to cough from time to time. Had a bronchitis this past week. This video is another one in this series in response to the RLOML's roundtable on machine translation this past week at the end of October 2022. We had four different panel members: Alon, Jay, Vincent, and Spence. And one of the things that kept coming up time and time again during the entire session was quality of MT. Not surprising; it's been coming up for 30 years or longer, right? and there was a lot of talk about how to improve quality, build bigger models, but then you got to deal with performance, and then analyzing or the data. Try to have assessments done, right? Rating. Someone didn't, Arl, I think you talked about translation grades, right? That'd be really interesting to see that. Because I've done a lot of this, right? In a lot of places. But there was a lot of talk about, too, the difference between confidence and assessment or evaluation. And then rating, which is different than rates, right? Translation rates is totally different, but rating or grading or whatever we want to call this. And this is something that I've actually been doing a book on, a video book, over this past year, probably the past 8 months more, 6 months. I'm still kind of the name of it. It's up on my YouTube channel for free, and I keep kind of adjusting the name of it because I'm trying to get a cooler, sexy name. Because this kind of topic is kind of boring, right? I think I've come down to something along the lines of a simplified approach to quality evaluation using customer satisfaction, sales, and customer experience approaches. I still don't like the title name, but that's what it is. And I give a lot of examples in a lot of different places about how to simplify quality. I think we are over-engineering this thing. I've been saying for a long time. We're over-engineering it. We're not doing it. A lot of things that we talked about, scores and all that kind of stuff, was kind of what you do in the R&D cycle early on. I mentioned this back in like LinkedIn groups in 2009. I remember all this. And yeah, I think Elon, you were even in those discussions. And I said we weren't taking it from a quality measurement kind of approach overall, and then not taking it into experience customer satisfaction, which is all it comes down to. And I've always said that we've had issues. I'm kind of dealing with the different factors here is coming in here, but one of the things that has always bothered me when we've done, MT workshop stuff, and we have assessments done by just people that are bilingual. They're not translators. And you know what? You just lost all your trust. Because anyone, this is always just, I've never said it, but it's just embarrassing. It was embarrassing to see all these workshops doing this MT stuff. And I wasn't in the workshops, right? Because I have funding to go to these things. So I can't go to the geeky stuff. That's no big deal. But to have assessments done by people that are just bilingual, but they're not translators. And that is the way to lose trust in anybody doing any quality work for translation. And I talked to another video about trust, but that's the fastest way you lose your trust. Because if you don't have human people that are professional doing it, I lose it. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it that way, but that's the wrong way to do it. Saying, we just use bilingual people. That's who you'll lose your entire trust of the entire translation community. No one will believe you anymore. Because they all laugh at bilingual people that say they're translators. So this just doesn't work, right? Totally wrong. That's one thing. Another thing is I've been working on here is a simplified approach. I call it the 3-5-7-9 method. I'm kind of trying to find a better way to call this, but simplify it down to 3. I got lots of examples in my video book. I explain how it is. Just got to watch down the playlist. The whole chapter about 3579 is really important about rating. Okay, grades, rating. This is the way to simplify it and get it done so it corresponds to how customers think, what they expect. And I've been giving a lot of examples from hotels, from restaurants, from even washrooms, from airlines, from music, and all kinds of stuff. It's always simple. We are making it too complicated. We're trying to do extensive assessments, and it just burns people out because they just don't want to do this complicated assessment, right? I've been through this, you know. And when I was just trying to say we got to simplify it. And I actually did the simplified method when I was there, but the complex ways and the whole J2450 way too complex for a first round. That's good at the end, but I talk about it in my book. Okay, I talk about it in the video book how to do that, but as a last phase and why you have to do that way. But I think that the fact that they say we all this data, training data with human translated databases that we use to do the comparison, right, against the empty data to see how close it is. But that is okay. We want to automate this stuff, but we can actually simplify ways to do it to get assessment quicker, right? Because we just don't have to have complex rating, complex ways of doing it. And we've all spent a lot of time doing these more complex things. J2450 has 8 categories, right? Hard to go through and do that. I mean, it takes time. People have done it. Done it for automotive. I've done it for finance, SOX, kind of compliance, all that kind of stuff. I know, because we've done it. And for medical devices too, at TransPerfect. It's all done. They do it. That takes a lot of time, and they charge a lot for it. Okay, that's all back translation, all this kind of back translation method, and all that stuff. The assessment is costly. Charge for it. TransPerfect does that, right? But no one else does because they don't know how to charge for it. That's the problem. But I think the key here is we need to find better, faster ways. Well, now we have to find. I already been suggesting how to do this. To do the assessment faster, whatever we want to call this, grading, assessment, whatever. Kind of get quick wrap thing. And I use what I've done in R&D when I ran test teams, right? And I'm not talking translation. I'm talking test teams of software, right? Software. Not talking translation software. I'm talking software of other fields that sells. Big company, big stuff, right? We do sanity checks. Do smoke tests, sanity sanity testing. And we use the same approach, and even simpler. And what we need to be doing for the builds, right? So, and even for feature testing, we need to be doing the same thing for what we do in translation systems. And I kind of I explain this in the book. I'm adding new chapters all the time, so it's never quite finished because I got new ideas. I'm coming along and I'm doing it. But it's the whole framework. There's probably I don't think there's 50 or 60, 70 videos right now already, all in bits and pieces, chunks. I'm trying to chunk them together in a playlist in order by categories of chapters, with a teaser each chapter, kind of a trailer to explain it, and then the simplified, intro, and then go into the depth, dig in. But we need to really think about how to rework this and make it simpler for people everywhere to be able to do this faster. And the key thing, and this is all end on, is all about customer satisfaction. Everything we've been talking about for years, that I've seen talked about, is about, well, we want the R&D to look good and stuff and all that. That's not what it comes down to. It comes down to customer satisfaction. What does the customer want? And what are they asking for? How close is to that? And that's how translators do their work. Everything's based on what the customer wants. Nothing else. Because they've qualified it. That's what they work on. And we're not doing that. That's not what I've seen. But I've been working on that. That's what I work on. And I do a lot of this in my music. I do a lot of concerts. I always watch people. Feedback, immediate feedback. If they're tapping their feet, smiling, waving their lighter, whatever, smiling, buying me a beer or two or three, or a meal, then that's customer satisfaction. Everything I do for music based on customer satisfaction return, just the feedback. And that's how I judge how to improve what I do the next time around. Always, always, always improves that way. Never any other way. Never based on what I think. It's based on what the customer is. Sometimes I do things I don't like. I do songs I don't like, but I do because the customers want it. And we need to have that mentality. That's a mentality. That's a paradigm shift. It's a framework of thinking. That's what we talked about. Some of the other topics here, roles and stuff, but it also fits in quality. Quality and how to do simplified stuff and not to attain perfectionism and how to avoid perfectionism in all ways. Perfectionism kills quality. Okay. So you need to learn to simplify it. And I did another video on that a little bit earlier too, of another citation of someone that said that. So let's work on that. That's what I suggest we do. That's what I'm doing, and it's worked. It's worked really well, and I found this work excellent for all the subtitle stuff I do. I simplified everything down to the basic stuff. Never over-engineer the quality. Never gave too much. Never try to do branding stuff and all this stuff. Just simple stuff for the hard of hearing. And when the people come, can you do this more? I said, no, because that's not what I promised. I promised this for this cost. They said, well, why don't you do the more? I said, no, you do that because you can do it. If you want to do all the extra stuff, character up, add on the branding names and stuff, all this stuff, you do it. I don't need to do it. I don't need to charge you for it. It costs me more to charge you to do it. And people have done it. But I kept getting so much. My service that I created, I was a victim of its own success. I had to shut it down. I had to actually transfer to another department because it was too cool. Because the quality was so good for what the customer wanted. It wasn't what others say as subtitle quality. Because I think what everybody else is doing is way too much. It costs too much. I simplified it, and it's just raving success. Very competitive pricing internally, and it just was off the score. I mean, just ballpark hitting the home runs every day. It was just too cool, but because I simplified it and I worked on the customer satisfaction, everything is based on customer satisfaction, and I measured it that way. I was able to measure it and actually to create predictive estimates of time and quotes based on that too. Totally worked. So I'll talk about more about this in this book. So watch the book, right? For more on this. But I think this kind of gets what your appetite for kind of what I've been working on that. And hopefully, I'm not saying we have to use everything, but it helps us to kind of give a framework of thinking of how to simplify things and how to go in a direction that corresponds to what customers need and how translators or people in this industry think and how they function with customer in mind, customer focused all the time. So thanks so much. All right.